Okay. So when I modify the outline, where does it go? It goes to my risk relational database. It doesn't go directly to Sbase. So if you query it, you find a list of the tables. Wherever you see HSS, your metadata modification goes to these tables. I modify the account dimension, it went to this table, but I cannot directly read it. I'm just showing the internal architecture of Hyperion planning. So I modify the outline from there, it goes to my this table. But you cannot directly interpret it because the planning made it intentionally in the form that you cannot directly read it. So if you modify metadata, it goes to RDBMS first. And when does it go to Sbase? When you refresh it. Refresh means pick from RDBMS and put into Sbase. Now it doesn't exist over here. Sorry. When I refresh it, it should be visible over here. I got a member. This is the architecture of Hyperion planning. Whenever you modify any metadata, it doesn't directly goes to Sbase. It stores into RDBMS and then in turn is stored into Sbase. This is the reason I say RDBMS store the metadata and Sbase also store the metadata. Both store the metadata. Now we will be in a better position to understand the architecture. This we already discussed about. Other component of Hyperion planning we understand. First, let me give you the brief, the big view of Hyperion planning, and then we talk about the architecture. This architecture. I am more focused for this architecture. So, key point about Hyperion planning. It's a planning and budgeting tool which is built upon multi-dimensional database. We can use Hyperion planning for target setting and bottom-up planning. Target setting means you put the data for parent level and it distributes to the children. This is what we see. You put data at parent level. I give the total expenses and the total expense distribute to the children. Total expenses distribute to the children or bottom up. It goes through multiple iterative cycle, the one which we explained. Multiple iterative cycle, you as a planner give to your manager, when you give it is called promote. Planner will promote or give to the manager for review. Manager will review it. And if he finds everything is good, it sign off and close it, approve it. If he, during review, if he finds something is wrong, it rejects and it goes back to the planner. So it is an iterative process. The same is given in a more elaborative way. When it is start called first pass, first level of review. It is given a first level of review. Under review, it might reject, come back, or it might approve and go back. Go to the next level. The cycle goes on unless it is being sign off and approved by the topmost in the hierarchy. Complex business rule and allocation. Allocation, you can use complex business rule, some kind of calculation. Allocation means you store data at parent level and goes to the children. We have web form or data form where data business user can enter the data. Now look at this. This is example of data form. What it is, it simply says this is my business revenue for current year and future 3 years. I am forecasting my current year and future year business. and my various expenses are depends upon my business revenue. Like 2% of the business revenue, material and supply is a 2% of business revenue. Labor excluding cost are 2% of business revenue, 40% of business revenue. So there are certain calculation could be associated with your certain calculation, and these calculations you may need to write in planning. You need to perform currency conversion the way we did in Hyperion airspace. The way we do in Hyperion planning is little different because we got a built-in solution. We have 3 built-in dimension over here. We have got a dedicated dimension. Let's see over here called HSP rate. For all currency we have different rate. Now what is that? When you perform currency conversion, there are 3 components. Input currency. See, I need to convert 1000 INR to USD at the exchange rate of 40.55, and when I am doing converting this today, right? So I am converting this in 1st of April. So my input currency is USD. Input currency is USD, right? What is my input value? Input value is 1000, right? What is my exchange rate? Exchange rate, BISP rate. My exchange rate for INR versus USD is 45.5. So different exchange rate, input value and consolidated value. That's what this is how currency conversion is done, take place. Headcount and salary expenses, we have to build in solution. Pre-built solution, and very high in demand in industry. The new solution called pre-built solution in 11.113. Workforce planning, expenses related to employees, their salary, compensation, everything, benefits plans are capped under this. They are built in, ready-made available. Second one is CapEx, called capital expense. Now capital expense are like infrastructure of your organization, building, of the organization. They are built in ready-made solution provided by Hyperion planning. It is possible to exchange data between Hyperion planning and other Hyperion products like HFM and all. This is a review process we just discussed about. Now what are the components related to Hyperion planning we are going to learn? Planning we are going to learn airspace is a backend component for planning. Administration services you know very well. Workspace we are going to learn. There is single one interface for entire Hyperion product. This is what we are going to learn. Smart view you already know. Financial reporting you already know. Shared service you already know. So this is all component relevant to when you are going to implement Hyperion as a product. These are all components we need. Whatever we have not learned, we are going to learn in planning. The one line introduction given for everything. You know all of them. I'm going to skip this. Additional components. I just said Hyperion comes with a built-in solution. If you want to implement Hyperion planning in your HR application, we have built-in solution called Workspace. If you want to implement Hyperion for profit loss statement, asset management, asset and liability management, infrastructure management, we have built-in solution for capital expense planning. Performance scorecard, performance scorecard is not extensively being used, but it's a kind of application provided by Hyperion for company performance. Strategic finance is also I'm not very much familiar. Financial management for financial closing and consolidation, and web analysis for reporting. So these are additional components can be used along with your Hyperion planning. This is the architecture, right? What I shown you just now in the Hyperion workspace, I add new member called new member, right? I add new member. The member I added, it goes to my SDAS. It goes to my relational database first, right? And when I refresh it, it comes to planning. This is the architecture for classic application in Red Hat. The architecture for EPMA we have not discussed, we'll talk about, but for EPMA there is one additional layer added. So every time you modify your planning metadata, it goes to EPMA, then it goes to RDBMS, and then it goes to planning. Why it is so cumbersome? Why there is one more layer added? What is the benefit of it? We understand it in detail about about this in future. This is basically for dimension library. This is added primarily for reusability of component, metadata management. Seeing is believing. When I do it live, you understand. Okay, so next to this, when I create a classic application in the next class, I'll talk about what component store in RDBMS and what component store in SDAS. We talk about this in detail. So I'm closing up for today. We talked about fundamental of planning, why we use planning, what the feature it has, what is the architecture, and various components. Now in next class we'll talk about in detail why Hyperion planning need airspace, how to create classic application, and how to create EPM application.